You can't stay out here, you're freezing! Come with me!
On a storm-torn night, exhausted diner worker Maren Hale discovers an elderly man, Jonas, shivering outside in the rain. Instead of walking away, she gives him warmth, food, and shelter, an act of compassion that costs her everything. The next morning, she arrives 10 minutes late to work and is cruelly fired by her manager. Humiliated and defeated, Maren wanders into the elegant redwood estate, unaware a private event is underway. The downpour had swallowed the entire city by the time Maren Hale locked the last door of Blue Fern Diner. Rain hammered the windows like fists demanding to be let in. She rubbed her aching wrists, sore from carrying trays since sunrise, and tried to ignore the way her shoes squished with each step. Her manager, Lowell, had shouted at her twice that evening, once because a customer complained their tea wasn't hot enough, and again simply because he was in a foul mood. Maren didn't argue. She never did. She just tied her coat tighter and stepped into the storm. The wind slapped her hair across her face. Water instantly seeped through her coat, clinging coldly to her skin. She hurried across the near-empty parking lot, fumbling for her keys as thunder ripped through the sky. Her old sedan waited beneath a flickering street lamp, the paint peeling like sunburnt skin. She had just reached the door when she heard it, a weak, strained cough. She froze. For a moment she wondered if the wind had played a trick on her. But then the sound came again. "Hello," she called. Her voice vanished into the rain. Then she saw him. An elderly man hugged close to the side of the diner, his thin coat plastered to his body. Water dripped from his silver hair. He looked like someone who had been forgotten by the world long before this storm arrived. "Sir, are you all right?" He tried to speak, but a violent shiver cut him off. Maren didn't hesitate. She rushed to him, placing a gentle hand on his arm. "You're freezing. Come with me. You can't stay out here." "I don't want to trouble you," he murmured, teeth chattering. "You're not," she insisted. "Please." She helped him into her car, turned the heat on full blast, and removed the blanket she always kept in the trunk. He held it with trembling fingers as though it were made of gold. "My name's Maren," she said softly. He nodded. "Jonas. Thank you, Maren. I didn't think anyone would stop." "Most people are home avoiding the storm," she said. "But no one deserves to be out in this." She drove him to her small apartment 2 blocks away, offering him a spare set of dry clothes from her father's old box, a hot bowl of soup, and a place on the couch. Jonas apologized for every sip and every movement, as though kindness was something he had no right to receive. When he finished eating, he fell asleep within minutes, his breathing finally steady. Maren stood in the doorway and watched him for a moment. She didn't know why tears stung her eyes, maybe because she had seen her father struggle like this years ago, maybe because she knew how it felt to be invisible. The storm raged outside, but for Jonas at least, the night was no longer cruel. By sunrise, the rain had thinned into soft, misty tap water falling from a bruised sky. Jonas insisted on leaving early, grateful beyond measure. Maren slipped him a few bills from her wallet, though he tried to refuse. She pressed them gently into his palm. "Please," she said, "get a warm meal." He looked at her like she had handed him the moon. She arrived at Blue Fern Diner 10 minutes later than usual. The sky was still gray, water dripping from the awning in sporadic taps. Lowell, her manager, stood at the entrance with his arms crossed. "You're late," he snapped. "I'm sorry," she began. "There was. I don't want excuses." She blinked, chilled by his tone. "Lowell, it's only 10. 10 minutes too many," he barked. "Customers expect consistency. I'm not running a charity here. And frankly, your attitude hasn't been the best lately." Her mouth fell open. "My attitude? You know what? I'm done." His voice rose loud enough for the cooks inside to hear. "You're fired." The word burned her ears. "Fired?" she whispered. "For being 10 minutes. Leave your apron and keys." Rain began again, light but cold. Maren could only stand there, speechless, as Lowell slammed the door behind him. She felt the humiliation crawl across her skin like thorns. After everything she had done the night before. After all the kindness she had given. After all the years she had worked there. She walked away slowly, as if each step were a stone dragging her down. Across town, a very different world awakened. The city's wealthiest families had gathered for a lavish ceremony at the historic Redwood estate. Among the guests was Rian Corval, known for his calm precision, razor-sharp instincts, and the quiet influence he carried in every room he walked into. He wore responsibility the way some men wore expensive watches, effortlessly. But his eyes drifted away from the glittering crowd, their noise and pride exhausting him. He slipped out to the terrace, where rain misted through the open arches. That was when he saw her. Maren. Standing alone beneath the stone overhang, her hair damp from the walk, her coat clutched tightly around her. She wasn't part of this world, she looked like she had stumbled through the wrong doorway. Except, she wasn't supposed to be here at all. Rian stepped toward her. "Miss? Are you all right?" She startled, then quickly wiped her eyes. I'm sorry. I shouldn't be here. I thought this place was open to the public." "It usually is," he said gently. "Just not during events." "Oh." She lowered her gaze. "I'll leave then." Something in her voice, soft, defeated, hit him in a place he didn't expect. "Wait," he said. "Are you sure you're all right?" She hesitated. "It's been a hard morning." Rian studied her for a moment. There was something honest in her eyes, something raw. He wasn't sure why, but he wanted to offer her safety the way she had offered it to Jonas only hours earlier. "Would you like some tea? There's a quiet lounge inside. No one will bother you." She looked as though she wanted to refuse, but exhaustion settled in her shoulders. After a long silence, she nodded. Inside the smaller lounge, he gave her a towel and a warm drink. She sat near the fireplace, hands curled around the cup as though absorbing its heat through her skin. "What happened?" he asked gently. "I helped someone last night," she said. "An older man in the storm. He was shaking, freezing. I gave him food, let him rest. And today, my boss fired me for being late." Rian's brows drew together, anger flickering behind his eyes. "You were punished for being kind?" "Yes," she whispered. He sat across from her. "Then the problem is not you. Some people only understand rules, not humanity." Her lips trembled despite her trying to steady them. No one had said something kind to her in a very long time. "Thank you," she murmured. Later that afternoon, as the event concluded, something unexpected happened. A wealthy guest, Astra Vales, known for her arrogance, entered the lounge, spotted Maren, and smirked cruelly. "Well," Astra said loudly, "did the staff start letting in strays from the street?" Maren froze. Rian stood instantly. "Astra," he said, his voice low. "Don't." She laughed. "I was only asking. Look at her. That coat. Those shoes." She clearly. "That's enough," Rian said sharply. Astra blinked in surprise. "You're defending her?" "Yes," he said without hesitation. A few nearby guests whispered, watching. Astra's pride ignited. "If you feel so strongly," she scoffed, "maybe you should escort her out yourself." Rian didn't move. Instead, he turned to Maren. "Let's go," he said softly. "You don't deserve to stand in rooms like this." As he led her out, Astra's voice followed, shrill and bitter. But Maren didn't hear the words anymore. She was too stunned by Rian's unexpected loyalty, something she had never received from anyone in power. Outside, rain tapped gently against the stone steps. Maren stood beneath the old willow tree while Rian faced her. "I'm sorry she spoke to you like that," he said. "People like her mistake wealth for worth." "It's okay," Maren whispered. "I didn't belong there anyway." Rian's eyes softened. "You don't see yourself clearly." Maren looked at him, the tension inside her beginning to unravel. Why are you being so kind to me? He hesitated, then answered truthfully. Because you're the only person I've met today who still remembers how to be human. Something inside her cracked, not in a painful way, but in a way that let light through. But you don't know me, she said quietly. I'd like to, he replied. She looked away, unsure how to respond. She had spent years surviving, not connecting. But Rian didn't push. He didn't demand anything. He simply offered presence, steady and warm. 2 days passed before the next storm arrived, this one smaller, gentler. But Maren had learned that storms often brought turning points. Jonas returned. He found her outside the diner, waiting for a bus, and hurried toward her with a joy that made him look years younger. Maren, he called. I've been searching the whole district for you. She smiled. Jonas, you found me. Are you all right? Better than all right, he said, his eyes bright. I wanted to repay you. But before I could, someone else found me. Someone who heard what you did. Someone who said your kindness reached the right ears. What do you mean? He handed her an envelope. Inside was a job offer, with a starting pay far above anything she'd ever earned. Confused, she looked up. Who did this? Jonas smiled softly. A young man at the Redwood estate. Rian Corval. Her breath caught. He said. Jonas continued. Anyone who saves a stranger in a storm deserves a door opened. And he meant it. Maren felt something warm bloom in her chest. Maybe storms didn't just destroy. Maybe they revealed the people who were worth holding onto. When she later found Rian waiting near her apartment, with 2 umbrellas, as though one wasn't enough, she approached him slowly. You didn't have to do that, she said. I know, he replied. But I wanted to. And I'd like to do more. Rain softened around them like a curtain of silver threads. Maren, he said, stepping closer. You've spent too long apologizing for your existence. You helped someone who had no one. You trusted your heart even when the world wasn't kind in return. His voice gentled. You deserve someone who stands with you, through storms, through humiliation, through whatever comes next. Her throat tightened. I don't know how to be with someone like you, she whispered. Then we learn together, he said. At your pace. She looked at him, really looked. He wasn't offering charity. He wasn't offering rescue. He was offering partnership, respect. A place she didn't have to shrink herself to fit into. For the first time, she felt her life shift, not because of wealth, or fear, or desperation, but because someone saw her clearly and chose her anyway. She reached for his outstretched hand. Okay, she said softly. Let's try. Rian smiled, a warm, unguarded smile that erased distance and doubt. Together, they walked into the rain. Not as strangers. Not as savior and saved. But as 2 people who had finally found each other in a world full of storms.